For me, when it's similar to like when we signed Beltran, we gave him that contract. I felt comfortable that Beltran was going to hit 30 home runs when he's 33, 34, 35. I think Baez has that. He's got power. He knows how to play the game. I'm seeing him somewhere between. He's going to be somewhere 6 years, 7 years, somewhere between 150 to 175 in that range. That's how I see it. But you don't know. It's a market that when those kind of special players come out, and really a lot of it is going to depend on who signs first. Who signs first? Who Simeon, I think, is going to sign first. But there's a lot of guys. But I do believe he's going to get a 6 to 7 year contract because of his age, and he's going to be somewhere north of $150 million.
He's 28 years old right now. He'll be 29 this offseason. I think those numbers are fascinating from Omar, Andy, and I know that we don't know what the Mets front office hierarchy will necessarily look like this offseason, but do you see anybody underneath Sandy Alderson wanting to give another massive contract to another shortstop?
Well, as you said, Doug, as you alluded to, anyone underneath Sandy Alderson now, it's not going to be up to them. It's going to be up to the person who's running baseball at that time. So that's hard to say whether they will. I will say that with Francisco Lindor already about to start a 10-year contract, that's awfully tough to do, give Baez 6, 7 years. I think he's worth what Omar suggested to the right team. But unfortunately for the Mets, they've locked themselves in on Lindor. It's not the dollars. Steve Cohen has the dollars. To me, it's the lack of flexibility, having two middle infielders who are going to be aging together. I think they've already boxed themselves in at shortstop for a decade, and I wouldn't want to box myself in further with a long-term deal like that.
I do wonder about the fit with the Mets. I mean, we've seen, obviously, it's gone great so far, but whether he'd be comfortable, playing second base for the long term with a contract like that. But what's most interesting to me about his free agency and all of those guys on the list that Omar showed, but especially taking Semien off for a moment and looking at Seager, Correa, Baez, and Story. Those guys are all going to be under the age of 30 and entering free agency, all playing the same position. We've never seen more than two guys playing the same position get 4-year free agent deals in the same offseason, taking pitchers out of it, just looking at position players. So all of those guys are players who I would expect to get 4+ year deals. And the reason I looked into this at 4 is that feels like that sweet spot of not just what Semien did this past offseason, for instance, with a 1-year deal. So I think that that's the biggest thing working against all of them. And I do wonder if the contracts end up coming down just because of all that competition